Overrated, underrated.
If they're overrated, underrated, or properly rated.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to Nick at 9, an opera variety show right here on the TDO Network. Now, I'm outside, the wind is blowing. I feel like it is appropriately dramatic for our subject matter today, which are tenors. Yes, they're divos. Yes, they're insatiable. Yes, they're difficult to deal with, but they are, in my opinion, one of the things that makes opera so special and so great. There's really nothing like a tenor screaming a high C on stage to really get you revved up and excited about opera. Now, I thought, how do we approach the tenor subject? How do we get in there? How do we know what's going on up here, really? So I got 4 tenors from all different walks of tenor life, and they have joined me today for an episode of Overrated, Underrated, where we put to them the hard-hitting questions like Puccini, overrated, underrated, Wagner, overrated, underrated, hydration, those tenors walking around with those big gallon jug bottles. Are they overrated? Are they underrated? So join us today for this newest edition of Nick at 9 called Overrated, Underrated. Next week, we'll be doing mezzos, the mysterious mezzos. I hope you all enjoy this week, and make sure you're staying happy and healthy and hydrated. Why not? Puccini.
Properly rated.
I'll say just overrated, just to anger people.
Properly rated.
Yeah.
Underrated.
Great. Verdi.
Under. You can't overrate it.
Properly rated.
Can't overrate it. Underrated.
Wagner.
Overrated.
Okay.
Overrated.
You said it. In Germany.
Overrated.
I'm gonna say over, just because I don't perform it.
Handel.
Oh, well done. Underrated, I think.
Okay.
Woo! Maybe overrated.
Handel. Overrated.
Probably under, if I'm being honest.
Are there takebacks?
Sure.
Handel. Properly rated.
Acting in opera.
Properly rated.
Underrated.
Very underrated.
I'm gonna say overrated, and that's because I'm a weak actor. And
Reading source material.
Overrated.
You have to say that if Paul Curran's around, you know what I mean?
I'm gonna say underrated. And I wouldn't have said that before I met Paul Curran.
Oh, definitely underrated. Properly rated.
Non-traditionally staged opera.
Overrated.
Overrated.
Overrated. Overrated.
Good diction.
Very underrated.
Very underrated.
Extreme, like underrated.
Do you have a language it's most underrated for?
German, actually.
100%.
I don't know, man. Like, for some reason, I feel like in German, underrated. In Italian, overrated.
Underrated.
Overrated.
Cast chemistry.
Way underrated.
I think it's underrated.
Yeah.
I'll say underrated.
Underrated. Okay.
Definitely underrated.
Wozzeck.
Properly rated, but honestly, I don't know enough about it. Underrated.
Underrated.
Over.
Manon Lescaut.
Overrated.
Oof.
Underrated.
Underrated.
Great.
Especially with jobs.
Underrated.
The Ring Cycle.
I don't know enough about it. I got to be honest. Never listened through the whole thing.
Love it.
I'm going to say overrated based on zero knowledge.
Damn it. I've experienced a couple of them already, and I must say that they're underrated.
Properly rated.
F sharp.
I'm going to say underrated.
Oh, underrated. Underrated.
Underrated, man.
That's what everybody said.
Properly, actually. Well, no. Let me tell you why I think it's overrated.
Pavarotti.
Always underrated.
Underrated, even though he's the most celebrated human being that's ever lived.
Underrated. I love Pavarotti. I mean,
Forever underrated.
properly.
Yeah. What you eat before you sing?
Overrated.
Overrated. People should chill.
I would say properly rated.
Now that I'm post 30, I'm gonna say underrated.
Notes above high C.
It depends on what part of the opera it is, but I am going to say underrated.
Properly rated.
Just real quick, I will just say underrated,
Great.
even though I will never perform one.
As a lyric / spinto, overrated, man.
For sure. Corelli.
Underrated.
Alfredo Kraus.
Overrated.
Corelli.
Properly rated.
Alfredo Kraus.
Overrated.
Corelli.
Underrated. I love that voice. I love it. My teacher always said cup. Think cup. He did study with Corelli at some point in New York.
Yeah.
The word cup for a tenor, it's wonderful. It just keeps the larynx a little bit down.
Alfredo Kraus.
Definitely underrated.
Corelli.
I'm just gonna say underrated again because
Love it.
I mean we're talking about him. Everyone knows who he is, and there's a reason for it.
Alfredo Kraus.
Underrated, absolutely underrated. And
Old school recordings.
Overrated.
overrated.
Oof. I'm going to say, I might get in trouble with this one, but I'm going to say overrated. You have to learn from them. You should never copy them.
Underrated.
Hydration.
Definitely underrated.
I like to think that it's properly rated, but maybe overrated.
Overrated, man.
Underrated.
Mm-hmm.
Underrated. I need to feel like I'm gonna have an accident every production.
Covering.
Oh, it's been a recent thing. I might say overrated.
Laryngeal tilt.
I'm gonna say underrated.
Great. That's covering. Glottal attack.
No.
Covering. The voice.
Oof. Overrated.
Laryngeal tilt.
Underrated.
Yeah. Isn't
Because
that
they're
covering?
two different things. Huh?
Yeah, I know. But that's
No,
why
I just said they're
built it
two
that way.
different things, and I think people hear covering and they. I mean, yeah, let's not.
I mean,
This is
dude, covering.
Properly rated.
Okay. Laryngeal tilt.
Underrated.
Covering.
Underrated.
Okay. Laryngeal tilt.
Oh, shit. What? Laryngeal tilt.
Yeah.
I'm going to say overrated.
And then finally, tenors.
Always. No, you know what? They're properly rated.
Overrated, I think.
Okay.
I'm saying overrated because each one, you can never expect the same out of each one.
Overrated.
Over-
Overrated.
I think it's overrated in how they're treated, which lends to a Devo personality. I think that's
Kid
not
gloves,
cool
right.
at all. But I think they're properly rated. It is an insanely difficult voice. And to quote Brian Vu, a good friend of mine, who just made that awesome shift from baritone to tenor.
Yeah.
It's a completely different world, and the stress levels are through the roof.